I'm down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk. I'm down to dunk.
This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk. I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
We say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Cracklin Oat Bran?
Have you had Cracklin Oat Bran?
No,
No. Okay.
but it's healthy.
Are you a big oat brand guy?
I'm a big Oat Bran guy.
Okay.
I think I would switch it with Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, eat faster. Don't put as much in the bowl.
You have a gallon of milk I can also take home.
You don't have milk at home?
One cinnamon toast.
Okay.
Crunch. Yeah. Cereal is great. Yeah.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays, my good friend Alex Speers. Alex, oh, what's up?
What's up, Andrew? What's going on?
Oh, not much today, man. Not much today. I got back from Salt Lake City on Monday night. A very eventful weekend for the Thunder and Thunder players overall. So that was pretty cool. We'll just go through the weekend, starting with Rising Stars.
Yeah, a lot of this is going to be you telling me what it was like because I did not watch.
Did you watch any of it?
Yeah, I watched Saturday night, and then I watched. I turned on the game briefly.
You didn't watch it intently on Sunday?
I was actually following along on Twitter, like, okay, I'm going to wait until someone says something that's like gets me interested enough to watch this. And it just never happened. Now, to be fair, I was on vacation too, so it's not like I was just sitting at home with something better to do.
Yeah.
Or nothing better to do. I was there was a pool, Andrew. There was a pool. There were things. It was nice outside.
It's great.
Know?
Yeah. No, I don't blame you. If you had other options and we're watching on TV, I might choose the other options.
But so the Rising Stars Challenge, which people, I would say, there's a lot of talk about how everything's gotten worse and everything's terrible at All-Star Weekend. That does seem to be one of the things that people enjoy more now than they did like 5-10 years ago.
It's great.
I remember when that game, people talked about it the way they talk about the All-Star game now, where it's like, what's the point of this? This is miserable.
Yeah, it was unwatchable. So I think there are ways to fix everything, but a lot of it is just like, can you get like one or two guys that just really care about this? And like Jose Alvarado really cared in that game, and that made it really cool. And so that night was really fun. The game was really fun. We interviewed the players earlier that day. So they had two different sites. And here's one reason why like Oklahoma City could not host an All-Star Weekend today. There are like probably 100 reasons we could go through. But like the number one reason is that there's not another arena nearby that would work.
What about the Cox Arena, Andrew?
It's not a thing anymore. It's a movie studio now.
Oh.
So can't do it. That's why the Blue play in Paycom.
Yeah.
So
well, when they build the new arena, if they don't tear down Chesapeake Arena,
they're not going to tear it down, and that's when I think just like the even thought of it being a possibility will enter the minds of NBA people, and that's when Thunder fans will start to say, "We could host All-Star Weekend." We'll probably say it for a decade, and then it will happen. But
so you're projecting once we get the stadium, and then a decade from then, so roughly 20, maybe 15, 20 years.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I would guess that then it'll be considered.
Cool.
But you need another arena. And so the University of Utah is in Salt Lake City and is like a 15-minute ride from like around where the arena is up to the University of Utah. and that's where they did the celebrity game, and that's where they did. So they didn't have open practice for the Rising Stars, but we went to practice for that, which is like all they did was just they did a shooting competition is what they did with like they took turns, like 2 teams were on each half of the court.
Yeah.
And they would just do like a 3-point shooting competition.
Are there many people there for that kind of stuff?
So that was like media could be there, and yeah, there were quite a few people.
Oh, but fans can't be at that?
Fans couldn't be at that, but
Oh.
fans were at the All-Star practice.
Okay.
And so you could buy a ticket to that, and it was packed. And it was just like they also did like shooting games and like introductions. Like it was kind of cool. It was cool for people that couldn't go to the All-Star game, or like even like couldn't afford to go to the All-Star game.
And maybe even better in some ways.
No.
No?
No, the All-Star game was definitely better than that. So, but it was cool. It's cool. Like it's cool to see all those guys in one spot. You know, Zion was there too.
Who?
Zion.
Did watching the Rising Stars, were there any guys that you were like, oh wow, they're fitting in really well with Giddey and J-Dub?
I didn't. Well, I mean, obviously, like Evan Mobley was pretty awesome.
Okay, so you think we should go get Evan Mobley?
Well, and I asked Jay this the next day. I just asked him, like, did it make you seeing Giddey and J-Dub play with a big man like that? Did it make you think of playing with Chet next year?
Yeah.
And he said, well, he's like, that's a good question. It didn't really cross my mind, but it's something that we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
He said it's something that we see him working out and see him shooting and seeing him running up and down the court. He said we talk about it all the time as like something that like we're excited about. So it's obviously it would be something you talk about as a player on the team, but like fans talk about it all the time too. But it's just kind of cool to think that they're having similar conversations about like what Chet can do to like fill in the gaps of the current team. So that was kind of cool to hear Shea talk about that. But that it didn't make me think like, oh my gosh, we got to get Evan Mobley. It just
gosh,
it made me more think about, okay, what can Chet do with this group? And
did it make you regret that they didn't go harder for James Wiseman though at the deadline, Andrew?
It made me think we
let one get away to the Pistons. Is that where you were thinking?
No. I'm still perplexed by that move by the Pistons, man. I'm still perplexed by it.
We're gonna get. I mean, I know he's already played one game, but we're gonna get to watch him coming up too.
Yeah. He's like so not Thunder though.
Yeah,
I watched some of his plays and like he doesn't even look to pass. Doesn't even understand that it's a possibility, which is just like it's not the Thunder way. You can't be that guy. Where was I? What were we talking? Oh, we were talking about. Oh, you know who I did think was awesome was Quentin Grimes.
Oh yeah,
Quentin Grimes was so good. He was the only one I would say at the Rising Stars practice that like broke a sweat.
Yeah,
he was working with an assistant coach during like the practice on like different defensive stuff, and then they played like one-on-one together, and like he was going all out. Everybody else is just going, you can't even call it half speed. Like they're just like shooting around, just enjoying the moment kind of thing.
What did you think of J-Dub's pants?
The giant pants, it makes me think of like 5th grade, you know.
Did you ask him what brand those are?
No. You think they're Jinkos?
Well, because I'd seen that Jinkos were back, like the actual brand, but I'm assuming there are other better brands,
like more expensive brands.
Yeah, if you're a millionaire, maybe you have graduated from Jinkos, and there's a better big pant brand out there.
I think the J-Dub shops at J.C. Penney.
Perhaps he could, I guess.
You think there were zones? Was that what they're called? Zones?
Yeah, zones were like the tier down from Jinko.
Yeah. That's tough.
I did think. I mean, for a weekend that I'll probably forget completely within a week. My biggest takeaway was Shea's jacket and just how much Shea was repping OKC because he didn't have to do that.
Didn't have to do it.
He didn't have to do it, and it was just very nice. I mean, I know it's the whole like OKC inferiority complex where it's just like so nice when someone even pretends to care. We don't know. I mean, it seemed genuine.
We do exist.
Yeah, like just to have someone do like the bare minimum. And he went above and beyond that because there was that great picture with him wearing a J-Dub's jersey from the Rising Stars game.
Yeah.
And J-Dub was in his big pants in that photo.
Yeah.
But then wearing that jacket on like the biggest stage of the night, which was like the dunk contest.
Right.
Or of the weekend. Yeah, that was just nice. It was just nice to see. It was nice to see our young star rep the city in that way.
Yeah, so he talked about it after the All-Star game, and that he had designed it along with somebody I'd never heard of, but he's probably famous. I don't know. That they had designed it like a couple years ago, and that he's had it in his closet.
Oh, really? Waiting to break it out for this?
He said he told himself when he got it that he was not going to wear it until he made the All-Star team.
Oh, that's cool.
And he wore it. I mean, he wore it to All-Star Saturday night, which is that's cool. Like if you're going to wear it anywhere, that would be the place to wear it, just because you see Shea on the side, going crazy about Mac McClung and whatnot. Right. So that was really cool. I'm trying to think what else from the Rising Stars. I thought Giddey like controlled the game for the most part when he was in it. How much do we take away from that? Not a whole lot. He was also mic'd up during the game, and I didn't hear it obviously live, but I went back and watched it the next morning, and that was pretty cool. It also just like tips the hand of like, we don't care about the outcomes of these games. When you have somebody mic'd up who's talking to the broadcast while a game is going on,
right?
It's just like we just don't really care about the outcome of this game. I mean, it happened in the All-Star game too. Like Luka was mic'd up, and so like people are just getting so worked up about like, is there a way to fix the All-Star game? Is everything's ruined? Why can't my guys just compete? And it's like, well, the league is like micing these guys up and like talking in their ear while they're playing this game. Like, how seriously should we take it if the league isn't even taking it seriously?
I mean, it seems like the league should take it more seriously because the ratings just came out and it was the lowest rated All-Star game in history, I guess. So that was like the one thing.
I think we care about the broadcast.
Then what's it for? Then what's the point?
They make a ton of money, like in Salt Lake. Just a crap ton of money.
So then who is it for? Because clearly, if it's the lowest rated ever, it's not for the fans. You're not creating a product that people actually want to tune into. I mean, I consider myself above average as an NBA fan, and I had like zero desire to turn on that game.
What about Saturday night? Like, what about the other? I mean, obviously Friday's not going to draw a huge crowd, but like, is Saturday also like that?
I believe it is. I'll bring up the tweet. It just came out. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I get that people say, let's see. Yeah, that was just about the All-Star game.
Yeah. Because I thought that the Saturday night stuff was actually really good. It was really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was too. I enjoyed Saturday night. Yeah, All-Star Saturday night and Rising Stars also down to new lows.
Yeah.
Celebrity game bucks trend of record lows with an actual increase over last year. So that's where it is. That's where they've solved it, Andrew.
That's where they've solved it.
You got DK Metcalf, and it all makes sense. No, I saw some people, and I initially agreed with this idea, was like, the All-Star game isn't for me. It's not for 30 to 40-year-old men.
Yeah.
It's for kids.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, oh, well, has anyone asked kids? It's not like you put anything in front of kids and they'll like it. We need to interview some kids, Andrew, because based on the ratings, it doesn't seem like kids are that into it either.
But the question you have to ask yourself is, where are the kids watching? Like, are the kids watching the broadcast, or are they watching on YouTube later? Or are they watching on TikTok? Are they like, you know what I mean?
But does any of that matter?
They're going to have to figure out a way for it to matter, because I do think that like NBA content overall is like up, but it's the cable broadcast that's down. And like the cable broadcast for everything is down and is going to continue to go down.
Except football. But yes.
I mean, football is the exception to everything, man. It's just it's an absolute monster. But yeah, that's something they're going to have to figure out, you know, is how do we make these other platforms matter within all of this? Because like, I don't know. My kids were watching it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
TikTok or whatever.
Were they enjoying it?
Yeah, they did enjoy it. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Asked Shay about it after the game, like if there was like a fix for the game. And I don't think he knew how this quote would come across when he said it. Yeah. When he said money talks, and that if there were certain incentives that people play harder. Obviously there's been a backlash against that. He also within that quote said like, listen, I had a lot of fun with the way that it was, you know, but I just wonder if like that was the conversation going on like in the locker room and between players.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's the thing. Like most of those guys are in playoff races or play-in races or whatever, and they don't want to get hurt. It's like the biggest thing. Like, how bad would it be if one of these guys actually got hurt? Like, I don't think LeBron actually got hurt, but if like LeBron like did something to his hamstring or something during the game because he's like going all out, like how mad would you be as a Lakers fan today?
Well, if that's the case, but that's always been true. And I mean, we can watch old All-Star games. Like I remember watching the one that I think it was like Iverson, and when Jordan was on the Wizards, like there once upon a time there were like entertaining All-Star games.
Sure.
So if we're at the point where that's true and nobody wants to do anything, well then just scrap it. Like come up with something new. Even if it's them doing like the equivalent of a better skills challenge or something. Like
what if they did ones? Would you do that? Would that?
If they did what?
One-on-one?
Well, yeah, that'd be great. But wouldn't that introduce the same concerns?
I mean, probably.
I don't know. I like the idea of just. I think if it's going to stay like it is, you just have to shorten it somehow, so that it's not.
I was sitting next to David Aldridge, and this is what we talked about. It's like you just need to have a running clock.
Yeah, if it was shorter, it wouldn't be as big of a deal because then you'd get in and out. But it just drags.
Yeah, you need to have a running clock. They need to get through the introduction stuff faster. You don't have to have the concert in between at
halftime, or
no, they did a concert in between the draft
at the beginning
and the game.
Yeah,
you don't have to do that. Like, how long does it take to put on a shirt and a pair of shorts? Not very long.
What would you think? Because it does seem like the Rising Stars format seems to work to some extent, and that allows you to shorten it a little bit.
Yeah,
where you just have these like mini games.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea. And here's the thing: like, no one knows. Like, you go back a decade. Was Chris Bosh an all-star starter? Like, I don't know, but he was definitely an all-star. Like, no one cares about that. It's not like first team All NBA,
right?
No. So I think that a format like that would be just fine, and you just play.
And I would even say you could, because right now it's 12 per conference, right?
Yeah.
So expand it to 14 per conference, and then you get a few more guys in, and then you make it 28, and then you can have 4 teams of 7.
Yeah.
And then just have some short mini games like they do with the Rising Stars, and that would be entertaining enough. And even if it isn't entertaining, it'll be over quickly.
Yeah, and then like the winning team, maybe I think there probably is something to like, because like I think right now they get like $100,000 if they win.
Yeah,
but if you found a way, and if it was only 7 guys, it was like these 7 get $1 million each. I think, and I know that people are like grossed out by that or whatever, but here's the thing about money is like there's never enough. Like whether you're making 50K, there's never enough. Whether you're making 50 million, there's never enough. Like that's like you can never be satisfied by a certain amount of money just because of the way the world works. Once you hit another tier, well, there's other people doing all these things around you, and it costs so much more to do that. And I do think that it would make a difference to these guys, as much as like I don't really like that. But like it's just like this problem with humanity more than it is like a problem with these all-stars. You know what I mean?
What about the idea of just bringing in, reserving some spots for just some ringers? You know, because obviously Kyle Lowry took it very seriously.
Yeah.
If you could just throw like chaos agents into the mix,
like Dort and Dylan Brooks.
Yes, Dylan Brooks specifically.
Yeah, no, I hate that idea.
Why?
I don't like the idea of rewarding Dylan Brooks.
What if you had an entire, okay, if we go back to the team concept like Rising Stars, what if you just had a team of just wild guys? And you put them all on one team and they're facing off against the NBA All-Stars.
It's like the top 5 guys in technical fouls.
Yeah, it's like the guys who would be most likely to hurt you in a game. Yes.
Yeah, I also hate that idea, but it sounds fun.
It would be fun. Yeah, but I was kind of bummed out because I did turn it on in the fourth quarter because I was like, okay, well, the Elam ending at least that should get us going a little bit.
I thought so too. They were just way too far behind.
They were, but by the end, like, because they kept shooting half-court shots.
Like, the only reason that it was fine is that they were all just wanting to hit some deep bomb, right? And
it's like eventually it got down to like a 6-point game. It's like, okay, maybe if you guys keep shooting half-court shots, maybe this will be close.
Guys keep throwing this game away. Yeah. Maybe they'll get back. The Tatum and Brown stuff was cool. That was kind of fun, but that like made me think about like the one-on-one stuff because it literally was one-on-one. Everybody else was just standing to the side.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like, okay, there's part of this that's cool. There's part of it that's like, oh my gosh, this is kind of lame.
So could you tell me where you were sitting?
So I was sitting up in like the nosebleeds.
Loud City.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Sitting up in Loud City. It was kind of surreal because I'm like sitting up in Loud City, but I'm sitting in between Sam Amick and David Aldridge, who are like people that I like grew up like reading and watching.
Yeah.
And, like,
what was their reaction to the game?
DA was like pretty checked out. He was talking about how crazy this was. Sam was working on something most of the time, and he was like, "Man, I got to vote on the MVP of this game." He's like, "Andrew, you gotta help me with this. You gotta watch and help me recognize who the best player in this game was." It was too obvious by the end, but it was kind of surreal for me to like. This was my first All-Star game, and so it was kind of surreal to be there. But then to like sit in between like these two guys that are just kind of legendary in the business was just kind of like, oh man, this is kind of ridiculous.
So then Saturday night, it seems like that was like, you know, in person, it sounds like that was pretty fun. People were engaged.
It was a great experience. It was really cool. The 3-point contest was awesome. The skills challenge was fine. It was fine.
I feel like I don't hate the skills challenge the way other people do, but I do feel like they have the components. Like there are ideas there that just need to be like reworked a little bit.
Yes.
And I think there could be something fun there.
Here's the thing that I didn't understand about the skills challenge was there's that corner 3 and you get 3 shots.
Yeah, but you can miss them all.
But you can miss all of them. Honestly, I would just...
Yeah, you could just chunk them up.
Just like 1, 2, 3, because you're not penalized for missing all of them.
You are not.
And you basically will get the same time if you make or miss the third one. That's where I'm like, you don't have to be skilled right there. There's no skill involved. So I think you should be penalized like 2 seconds if you miss all 3.
You should. And then that makes Jaden Ivey, I mean, that was like the most exciting part when Jaden Ivey made his corner 3 and like sprinted for the layup. It was like, oh, wow, Jaden Ivey's really fast and also he's trying.
Yeah. Yeah. But you should have been rewarded for making the third, because there were guys that missed all three and then got a good time, and it was like, this is ridiculous.
They need to bring in the production team for Nickelodeon Guts or Double Dare.
Do you have it?
And because those folks knew how to create a game show around activities.
True. Yeah, it should be more of a game show than it is like,
yes,
who is skilled? I also think that if you lose, it should just flash just big red unskilled.
They should do the little Josh Giddey graphic of weaknesses and put the players in place of Josh Giddey.
Unskilled, missed all 3 threes.
Yeah,
couldn't make the pass. Unskilled.
But yeah, I do think there's still something there. I know people want to scrap it completely, but I remember enjoying it back in the day.
I mean, there were just things about it that I was like, okay, if we make like these 3 tweaks to it.
Yes. If you build, here's what they got to do. You build the 2 mountains on each side. You put the guys on the pulleys, like the straps, and then they jump into the middle at the same time and have to try to grab the basketball. That was one of my favorite games on Guts.
Yeah.
That's a skill. Hand-eye coordination.
Should make it a little more competitive. Senator Kennedy said here, I don't know of any way to confirm this is true or not, but he says he was on Wild and Crazy Kids when he was 7. I don't know how you can confirm this, Senator Kennedy, but like, if you can try to convince us a little bit more,
I would give us a screenshot. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I always wanted to. What was the show that you were in the video game? Nick Arcade, is that what it was called?
Nick Arcade, yes. Yes. Yeah, that was cool.
That one always seemed way cooler as like a person watching it. I'm assuming in person it's not that.
You're just on a green screen, and you're just like, you probably just have a producer just telling you to like jump or whatever.
Yeah.
Jump, duck.
But yeah, I do feel like there's people that are good at these things, and they just need to employ them. The idea that the first 2 skills are worth 100 points and the third one's randomly worth 200 points for no real reason. Like, come on, that's a basic fix we could make.
It's true.
There arguably needs to be more scoring. There needs to be more nuance. Like you said, with like taking off seconds.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. There needs to be more of that.
Yeah. Maybe they need to make like the pass a little bit harder. And if you make the pass like within like with your first try, like
you get a bonus.
You get a bonus.
Yeah.
Bing, bing, bonus.
Bing. And those sounds, and you play sounds like that.
Just
arena to get
bing, bing, bing. Yeah. No, I think that would be cool. You like make like Mario sounds.
And get Mike O'Malley back.
Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that? I wouldn't want that. Legends of the Hidden Temple. People are just now naming just game shows on Nickelodeon in the chat.
Because people love it and everyone else is tapping into nostalgia. Why shouldn't the NBA tap into nostalgia?
Yeah.
Do you know the reaction they would get if they actually employed old Nickelodeon people to like redo the skills challenge? The reaction on Twitter would be universal positivity.
Who wouldn't want that? Name me one person who wouldn't want that.
Ratings would go through the roof for a very specific demographic of people.
Then they would be targeting 30 and 40-year-olds.
Yes, which is getting back. That's what it should all be about, Andrew.
It should all be about.
Sick of hearing about this is for the kids.
Me in this.
But yeah, so that was cool. 3-point contest was cool.
It was cool.
Cool. The Starry Zone.
Yeah.
What do you think about them changing the name of Sierra Mist to Starry?
Dude, here's the thing about Starry.
Is it a different drink or is it Sierra Mist just rebranded? Did you try some?
I mean, I was almost forced to try it.
Oh, really? What did you think? Review.
It was fine. It was not anything special.
Did it taste like Sierra Mist?
I just don't have any like memories of drinking Sierra Mist like so strong that I'm like, oh, this tastes exactly like Sierra Mist. I think it just tastes like a lemon lime soda. So
it tastes like Sprite.
Yes. And it was everywhere in Salt Lake.
That's tough.
Everywhere. There were these, I don't know what the brand of the car was, but they were just like they were completely starried out. And there were people all over the streets just handing Starry out. Everywhere.
PT Cruisers.
Everywhere. Yeah, it kind of looked like a PT Cruiser. Obviously not like a 04 PT Cruiser. They also delivered a 12-pack of Starry to every media member's hotel room.
Really?
Yes.
Are they trying to win an award?
So, and I mean, I just said there's a brand new pack of Starry just sitting in that hotel room as I leave. I didn't drink any of it.
Taylor didn't have any?
No, Taylor didn't have any either. But the thing is, they're just handing it out right outside the hotel. And so if you really wanted one, you just go grab one because they're just out there. You want to try a Starry? Here's your Starry. Here, get a Starry here. There's also inside. So there was this crossover event that's in the convention center.
Yeah.
And it was really kind of cool. But they have like this whole like Starry court where you can go and you can shoot, but they just are handing out free Starry at this event too. And so you're just kind of bombarded with Starry.
You wonder if the hotel workers who have to go and clean the rooms afterwards, if they just have like stacks on stacks.
They better.
12 packs.
That was my hope, is that like whoever cleaned my room got to take home the Starry.
And how exciting that would be.
They'd be so excited. I mean, it was everywhere. They're trying to make it happen. I don't think it's going to be that much better than Sierra Mist when it all comes down to it. But no, they're really trying. They're really trying with the Starry stuff.
And then the dunk contest, which was great. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
It was awesome. In the building, it was incredible. People were like freaking out in there.
Good. And I thought even like, I mean, you'd probably say that KJ Martin did the worst just because he missed his first couple of attempts. But if he was the worst, like that is a really good dunk contest because he still had a couple of really nice dunks.
Yeah.
I mean, you compare him to like, I remember like when Jalen Green did it not too long ago.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like a bummer. And it like the energy was just sucked out of the arena because he kept missing.
Yeah.
Like this was really solid across the board.
Yeah. It was an incredible dunk contest. I think part of what led to it being so great is that the expectations were so low for it.
Yeah.
And so like anything cool that happened, everybody was like, oh, well, this is cool. Like when McClung did his first dunk, it like brought the house down. And like everybody was on the edge of their seat pretty much from there on. It was unbelievable. I thought Trey Murphy was great too.
Yeah, he was great.
I thought for a guy his size and with his length, it's hard to make dunks look cool. That's the thing with McClung is like, it's really, if you can pull off the stuff he does, it looks like 10 times cooler with a guy his size. Cause like I stood next to him several times over the weekend and he's like my size.
Yeah.
And like somebody that's small like that doing a dunk like that, it's just like, oh my gosh. Cause he just looks like some normal dude, but he's like gained some kind of like crazy superpower, you know? So he does. It was incredible. The atmosphere in the arena was awesome. Murphy was great. The battle between those two was incredible. Everybody like walked away just like kind of wide-eyed and excited. So like that was a really cool night.
So what people want to hear, Andrew, is all of your celebrity interactions.
Yeah.
Did you get to meet anyone that you weren't expecting to meet and it just happened to work out that left you a little starstruck?
So I ended up at a particular party that I was pretty starstruck by some people that were in there, like Kenny the Jet Smith was at this party.
And why were you? How did you get invited to this party, Andrew?
We won't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Fat Joe was also at this party.
Oh,
so,
did you go up to Fat Joe?
Did not talk to Fat Joe. No. This was like an environment where it was not like a fan type environment where like you're not going up to people and like being like, hey, what's up? Can I take a picture with you?
So you're just standing in the corner, making notes. Fat Joe was here. Pretty much.
When Gabrielle Union walked by, like that was probably the most like starstruck that I felt like in a very long time.
Well, you sent us a picture of D Wade and Gabrielle walking by.
It was because I'm like around NBA guys all the time now, and like I don't feel like starstruck by them anymore. But like that was one where it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm like in the same room as her.
Yeah.
So like that was a crazy one for sure. And then, so at our hotel that we're staying at, all the NBA legends were staying there. And so, like, if you just hang out in the lobby for 20 minutes, you're going to see somebody walk through. Like, I saw Dr. J probably 20 times, like, just walking by, like, hopping on the elevator.
To the point where you're just bored of it. It doesn't even excite you that Dr. J is walking by. So, there's Dr. J.
There's Dr. J again. No, that was kind of like, oh my, that was another one. That was just like, holy smokes. And then Iverson was there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Dr. J was being really cool to everybody. Allen Iverson, not so much.
Dude, I would risk getting embarrassed and go up to AI.
I did.
You did?
I did. He was very, very mean to me. But again, I felt the same way that you did, where like that's who we grew up watching.
Yeah.
I would go outside and with my neighbor, like try to recreate like Iverson moves. And we were obviously terrible at them. But like we'd go out there and we would like try to recreate some of the stuff that he did when he was in Philly. And like, he was like this just larger than life player. And in like this, like, again, like when you're doing it at like 6 foot, there's just something different about it. And he was just cooking everybody. But yeah, he was sitting in the lobby. And
what was your opener to AI?
I just said, hey, AI. And he's just like, I'm not doing anything. It's like, like he just ended it just like so fast. I was like, cool. But I felt like you did. Like, I have to at least try because I would feel worse not trying than I did after he was mean to me. Like, I didn't really care. But I feel better after like at least trying, knowing that like I tried to have some kind of interaction with him.
Yeah, it's tough to come up with an opener that would make them interested in any way.
I just don't think there was going to be one, which also was weird that he was sitting in the middle of the lobby too.
He was just hanging out by himself.
He was hanging out with like somebody that was like a part of his team.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what they were doing. But yeah, no, that was a hilarious moment.
So would you feel more comfortable in the same scenario going up to Russ or going up to AI?
I would rather have the chance of like getting a picture with Allen Iverson than I would with Westbrook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the 1% reward when he's just like, you know what, I'm feeling good right now. You know, he was not feeling good. Even whenever he was at the game and they like put the camera on him and like usually people are like, yeah, what's up? And they're like, you know, doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And you can see they're excited. He just looked like lifeless. It was kind of sad. It was kind of sad.
No,
honestly. No, it was not in a cool way though.
No, he's cool though. He's a cool guy.
He didn't seem cool to me. He just seemed like he had been like beaten down by this life. And I was just like, man, that kind of sucks.
Well, I was trying to remember how old he is because he gets all of his Reebok money in 3 years. He's 47. He did a deal with Reebok where like he gets all of his payments when he turns 50.
Oh, interesting.
Not that, I mean, he's obviously still been involved in a lot of stuff post-playing career, but yeah, he gets like a huge windfall when he turns 50 from Reebok.
Maybe he'll be happy then.
Maybe. And maybe the next time you see him in a few years when the All-Star game is in Oklahoma City, you can go up to him. I remember going to a Hornets game to watch AI when he was on the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Sitting up in Loud City.
Yeah.
Just to get a glimpse of AI.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I stood right next to him. He was directly mean to me.
I think it was deserved, though. I heard your opener. Hello, Mr. AI.
Mr. Iverson. May I please? No, it was not good.
You should have said something about the Eagles or something Philly related. That's what I would have tried to go with.
Yeah, I'm not. He was not having it. I saw multiple people get their feelings hurt,
get shot down
by Iverson. But that was cool. I did have a really interesting conversation with somebody, and we'll talk about that right after this break. And we're back after this quick break. So probably the most interesting conversation I had with somebody was about the 2022 draft. And it was just such a weird draft. And I talked to somebody that, I mean, you can say like sources with direct knowledge of the situation or however you want to say it. But it was such a weird draft because like all the way up until then, everybody thought it was going to go Jabari, Chet, Paolo, like the whole time.
Yeah.
But the thing about that is I just don't think that wherever that information was coming from, I'm not really sure. Because I think if you talk to the actual teams and like truth serum in those actual teams that were selecting, they were all high on Paolo and Chet and not on Jabari. To the point where on draft night, the Houston Rockets were offering all their first round picks from that draft. I think they had 3 first rounders, including the 3rd pick and including KJ Martin, because they were so enamored with Paolo that they were trying to get him at 1. I also heard that there were people within the Thunder that really, really wanted Paolo as well within that. But I think Chet was always going to be the guy, but I know that there were people within the Thunder that really wanted Paolo. And Jabari, like, people like, oh, well, if Jabari fell to the Houston, like they were satisfied. Like, no, like they weren't satisfied. They were trying to trade up to 1. Like they would have much rather had Paolo. So to me, it's really interesting to hear people talk about that draft. And like the further we get away from it, it's like no one was really all that enamored with Jabari. You know, he was always one of the top guys. But I don't think those 3 teams, any of the 3, were really like trying to get Jabari. I think he fell to the Rockets and they were like, fine, but like not without a fight to try to get one of those other 2. And I just found that to be really interesting because like the person that I was speaking to had definite knowledge of what was going on during that time. And so I just find that to be one of the more confusing things. And then like that article came out about his dad saying the Thunder had a promise. Well, that's just not true. Like that was not really a thing. So I would love to know like the actual story behind all of that and like how Jabari got pegged as the number 1 guy this whole time. But like truth be told, like he never really was.
Yeah. Somebody did a really good smoke screen, or it was just, I mean, if it was just happenstance where it just kind of, because we know that Orlando and Oklahoma City are generally 2 teams where you don't get a ton of inside sourcing coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe because those were the top 2 teams, you know, something had to fill that void. And so the rumors about Jabari just started for whatever reason based on something.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of went from there and those teams never denied it. And so it just kind of led that way to the draft.
Yeah.
But if that was the Rockets' offer to move up to 1, that's a pretty poor offer to get to 1. Because, I mean...
But what the offer tells me, too, is that, like, Orlando, like, if everybody talks about, oh, there's not that big of a difference between, like, Paolo and Jabari. If that was actually true, you would take that, right?
No, I wouldn't. That's not...
But I'm just saying that you get a guy that you like that you think is going to be just as good.
I know.
Other stuff.
But you have to base it compared to previous trades. Like the Fultz Tatum trade, that included an extra unprotected first. The Luka Trey trade included an unprotected future first. Like if Houston actually wanted to make a compelling trade, you would have to include a future unprotected first, probably one of the Brooklyn picks.
Yeah, I guess they could have traded a Brooklyn pick to get him to make it happen. I also just know that Paolo was going to go 1. Like it just was going to happen no matter what. And so I don't think Orlando had interest in Jabari because like obviously the big prize is who you're getting at 1.
Yeah.
And so
but now that you've seen Jabari in the skills competition and playing with Gideon J-Dub. Has your opinion changed, Andrew?
I feel kind of bad for him.
He's in retrospect, he kind of went to one of the worst places he could go. It feels like
is there a spot that would be worse?
I don't know. The fact that
or a spot that would actually be worse, like seriously,
the fact that Steven Silas came out and said we are specifically not running plays for him, and he said it, and he was trying to spin it as a positive, like
he thought that was something like a feather in his cap.
Yeah,
but it was just like, oh my gosh.
Meanwhile, it's taking like a Kevin Porter Jr. injury for them to even try Şengün as an offensive hub.
Yeah.
They're not running plays for their number 3 overall pick, who everyone is so excited about. I mean, I guess if he had gone to like a really good team where he's not getting minutes, like maybe that's a worse situation for him. But for his stock to have dropped this far, this quickly, I mean, we're not even halfway through his rookie season.
Yeah.
And people's opinions on Jabari are wildly different. I mean, Sam Vecini had him number 1 on his big board in the summer.
I know. And
to go from that to where we are now, it took a lot of things going wrong for him. Now, to be fair, like he's shooting 30% on catch and shoot threes. So if he continues to do that, but you also wonder if that's how much of that is a confidence issue based on the fact that he's on a team that has no interest apparently in showcasing him in the offense in any way.
Yeah. I mean, and I wonder what he means by like running plays for him too. Like he can't have he's limited because he can't play with the ball in his hands,
Yeah.
So it's just like the further we get away from it, like the weirder that whole time was, before the draft, because it's like so apparent. Like we still haven't even seen Chet play, and like, does it make you think like the Thunder should have Jabari? Like, I don't think so. Like Paolo was clearly the right pick at 1. It's weird. I just think, I mean, the Rockets the whole time were very transparent about it. They wanted Paolo and thought they were going to get Paolo.
Yeah.
But like Orlando and OKC, I think that might have been like the hiccup within all of this, is that neither of them leaked anything the whole time, and so maybe that was it. Because like a team like Detroit's really is very willing to talk to media, and like that's pretty obvious. I think the Kings would be too. I think like having 2 organizations like Orlando and OKC who are just like, we're not really communicating with anybody about what we're doing until after it's done.
Right.
I think maybe that had something to do with it. And the Rockets obviously had just so much interest in Paolo, and maybe Orlando's like, great, yeah, you can have Paolo. And then like, nope, not getting him. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. The city overall was great. I'd never been to Salt Lake City before. I've like had that as like a connecting flight, but I've never actually been to Salt Lake City. It was a beautiful city. It was great. You have the mountains pretty much just like all around you all the time, which was cool. And the weather was really nice while we were there. So that was cool. They had these like media parties too for us every night. That was cool.
Did you sneak Taylor into any?
I did. I actually called Taylor. It was the Friday night, and Taylor was already asleep in the hotel, and the party was at the hotel. And I was like texting him and calling him. I was like, you got to get down here. And he eventually like woke up to go to the bathroom, and then like got dressed and came down to the party. And it was really cool. It was really fun. It was like Twitter coming to life, basically, in a room. So they gave us free backpacks.
That's tight.
At this event, and
probably some Starry.
There was actually no Starry.
Backpacks were filled to the brim with Starry. They were the heaviest backpacks.
Not even cans, just the liquid, just poured in there. Just need a way to get rid of this Starry. So that was cool. So I got to hang out with a bunch of my guys from the Athletic, and then met some people from like other outlets. Met a bunch of people from the Ringer, which is cool.
Did anyone say love Down to Dunk, love the show, love the Fry Pod?
No.
Did anyone say so glad the L-Man is back? Did anyone say that?
I did not hear that over the weekend.
That's messed up. It's messed up.
It's pretty messed up. But yeah, no, it was a great time. It was super cool. Okay. Anything else? I'm trying to think of any other things that happened over the weekend. We'll talk more about it on Friday as well.
Nope, I didn't see any celebrities.
You didn't see any celebrities
on my trip? No, unfortunate.
That's too bad.
You know what was cool though? I was in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Where my uncle lives, and he lives in this little community, and they just have citrus trees all around.
Oh.
And they're communal, and so you can just go out with your little tool and just grab an orange or a tangelo or a lemon.
Tangelo.
You can just be on a walk. It's a mix of a tangerine and an orange jello. I think an orange. They're great. And that was really cool. They had grapefruit trees, lime trees. It was awesome.
That sounds awesome. I would love that.
It was great.
That's great. I remember I was in LA when I was like a teenager and just freaked out that there was just like a lemon tree just like alongside the road. I was like screamed at my dad to stop. I made him stop, and I went and picked a lemon.
You got one. Nice.
Yeah. Thoughts on Brandon Miller and what a situation that is?
Yeah, if you did AL.com, which I believe stands for Alabama, they came out with a report yesterday that Brandon Miller, who a lot of Thunder fans really like, plays for Alabama, kind of like a near perfect fit based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah. 20 years old, 6'9" shooter, a good rebounder, can defend some, not a horrific passer. Yeah.
He delivered what ended up being the murder weapon in a murder to the scene of the crime based on the reporting. What was unclear initially was whether he was actually at the scene of the crime, because it said that his car was blocking the Jeep in which the victim was. So it does seem like he was at the scene, but the like takeaway was that he was never charged with anything. The DA came out and said we couldn't charge him with any crime. It seems really weird, and I'm assuming we're going to get more details coming out. Because the other two guys involved, they obviously did get charged, and I think they're awaiting trial. And those were teammates of his. So it's unclear what this is going to mean going forward. But both the reporting itself does not read like good, and it's bad. It's very, very bad. And the quotes from his coach after being asked about it yesterday were not good either. Because they were aware about this the whole time, and he tried to brush it off as just like a wrong place, wrong time type of thing. But reading the reporting, it seems more than that. But we'll hopefully get more details on it. It's a super sad story though, because like a mother, 23 years old, died in the shooting.
It's awful.
And he was involved somehow, whether it was knowingly or unknowingly. And so you just have to wonder if this like completely derails and perhaps like rightfully so derails his like future basketball career. We just don't know yet. We don't know the details. I mean, the fact that he was not charged with a crime as of now, but there's clearly going to be a lot more pressure on the DA in figuring out, now that this story is kind of like a national story, there's going to be a lot more pressure to understand the details of what happened.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd like to formally announce that Brandon Miller will not be on the Thunder.
Yeah, that thinking ahead to the draft, I think that's fair to say at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a bad story all around. There's really nothing good to take away from it.
No, there's not. It's terrible. Okay, so the Thunder don't have that many games left. They sit at 10th in the Western Conference.
Yes.
Any predictions? They do. So they play Utah tomorrow night.
Big game.
Pretty important game when you look at the standings because they are separated by a half game from Utah right now.
Yeah.
They play them 4 times. 4. Before the end of the year. They play them 4 times and they play the Suns 4 times.
And they play them 3 times in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, by March 5th, they will play 3 of their 4 games. And so that's 3 of their next 7 games are against Utah. And 2 are against Sacramento. And then they have the ESPN game on Friday, which it's kind of a bummer for them because that's the second night of a back-to-back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming this is on ESPN because this is going to be Durant's debut for the Suns.
That is definitely the idea. As much as we would love to believe that it's because the Thunder are a cool team, hate to break it to you, this is about a guy named Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But it also helps that it is the Thunder too, because if it was like, would they necessarily be putting like Phoenix, Detroit on national television?
Maybe not.
I don't know.
It is a bummer that's second night of a back-to-back and they have to fly. I mean, it's not a super long flight, but it's not like an LA back-to-back where they're playing Lakers, Clippers. So they're going to have to fly. They've been good in those spots.
They have been.
It's one of the benefits of being a young team.
Yep.
But that's a formidable task, Andrew.
It is. It's a big 2 games. If they split, you feel pretty good.
Oh, yeah. And then they have it's not back-to-back. It's 2 games over 3 nights in Oklahoma City, both against the Kings.
Yeah.
And that's part of a larger 5-game homestand.
Yeah.
Against the Lakers, 2 more games against Utah and Golden State. So, I mean, we keep saying like this next stretch is really going to define what they're doing. And it probably won't. Like they'll probably be within a game or 2 of that 10th spot when we get to the end of it. Either way, either they'll continue this little run they're on and kind of solidify themselves, or they'll be just like a game and a half out.
Right.
And we'll just keep going with this.
Yeah. I think it will be like nip and tuck until the end. Just because you look at the teams that they're playing, it's like, there's going to be good stretches and bad stretches here with them. Like they have a stretch where they play like San Antonio, Brooklyn, Toronto. It's like all pretty winnable games. They got Charlotte, Detroit, Indy at the end of March.
Yeah.
Like you got, if you want to make the play in, like you got to win all of those. So it's a favorable schedule. They've got to stay healthy for sure is like going to be part of this. And
I do feel like there's a lot more pressure on the teams around them other than Utah. Utah doesn't really have a ton of pressure on them.
Yeah.
But like Portland missing the play-in, that's a really bad outcome for the season. Obviously the Lakers missing the play-in, Golden State, if they fall back, missing the play-in would be not good either. So there's 3 teams that have a ton riding on this, and at least one of them will not be making the play-in even as it is. Yeah. So, I don't know how that plays out. I don't know if that means that these other teams will like buckle down and finally look like the teams we thought they could be, or if their margin of error is just like so much thinner. Because if they have any type of, if like Dame turns his ankle and is out for 2 weeks, like that's probably their season. If LeBron, who hasn't been able to stay in the lineup, isn't able to play every game the rest of the season, they're probably out. And same thing with Golden State. If anything more further happens to Steph. So I don't know. I mean, for the Thunder, it feels a little bit gravy for them. It's where they're kind of set up well. They're probably still going to be getting guys developmental time. It'll be interesting to see how many like minutes Jang gets from now until the rest of the season.
For sure.
I anticipate we're going to see more from Jang, but who knows? I don't know. I can't predict Mark anymore. I've given up.
We're definitely going to see more Jang. The Thunder do have the 4th best point differential in the West, by the way.
I know. I was looking at that today. Yeah, it's better than like the Clippers, better than the Mavericks. They're the 4th best.
Better than New Orleans, better than Warriors. Yeah. I don't think that'll be the case when it's all said and done, because I think like a team like the Suns they're not that far from the Suns, and I think the Suns will surpass them, but they'll probably end up in the top 6 in point differential, and they still might not make it. And that's okay. Like any outcome is great, honestly. Like if you get them playing experience and like potentially playoff experience, that's great. If you get a higher pick in the lottery, also great. I think I just don't think that there's a bad outcome here. You mentioned LeBron. That was one more thing that happened over the weekend is that I went to LeBron's press conference and like didn't plan on asking LeBron anything, and I didn't ask him anything. But I'm standing there and they're like, one more question, and it was an Australian reporter who asked about Josh Giddey, and so I am like scrambling to get my phone, and I am videoing it, and LeBron just like starts gushing about the Thunder again, and like it's just cool. And he talks like we do almost, and he's like, we've got Giddey, and we've got SGA, and we've got Jalen Williams, and we don't even have Chet yet. He kind of gave that feel. And it's obviously it doesn't truly mean anything, but it's just kind of cool to hear LeBron talk about like how successful this rebuild has been.
Well, and it's interesting too because 2024 draft with Jonathan Givony just released his first I don't know if it was a big board or a mock. I guess it was a mock.
It was a mock.
He had Bronny James at 10.
Yeah.
Which who knows? I mean, that could be where the Thunder pick ends up. I mean, hopefully not. That would be kind of disappointing, but maybe the Houston pick ends up there if things go really well.
The Houston pick was Bronny.
But yeah. And I mean, you read about Bronny, and he actually sounds like a Thunder guy.
Yeah, he's definitely a Thunder guy.
Yeah. So that story is going to be interesting until he is not, or until he's picked by someone else.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That is. It's really funny to think about that if that were the case. Like if James Harden goes there and they have like a little bit of success, but like not enough.
Yeah.
And then the Thunder get the 10th pick and it's Bronny James. Just the fact of even if LeBron's talking about how he wants to play with him and whatnot, but like even if that doesn't happen, like just having Bronny on your team like would be an absolute like circus.
Yeah, and he seems like the type of player who you could potentially fit into a role in his rookie season. Like if the Thunder are playing better, like apparently he's a very good perimeter defender. Yeah. He's a very smart player, like in terms of like passing, decision making, and all of that.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows, man? That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Also, the number 2 pick in this draft, Cody Williams, is J-Dub's brother.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Last thing we should probably talk about, former Thunder great Russell Westbrook did sign with the team, Andrew.
He did.
He did not have to leave LA. Great for him. Very nice.
Yeah, this is kind of what I had kind of hoped for him from the beginning, is that he didn't have to move, or I mean, he wouldn't actually move, I don't think, but like he didn't have to get a place somewhere in like Miami or whatever. Not that would be bad, but
I think it's a really interesting setup because clearly it's a better situation than the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers was about as bad of a situation as you could get. However, there's a lot more pressure in this scenario than there would have been if he had gone to like the Bulls, for instance, who was one of the teams he'd been talking about. If he goes to the Bulls, he can, like, regardless of what happens, none of it really matters.
Yeah.
Whereas once again, he is going to be in the spotlight, not just because he's in LA, but because he's on a team that desperately wants to win, that desperately wants to do something. I mean, this could potentially be the one season where they have both Paul George and Kawhi Leonard healthy for an entire playoff run, and you have to take advantage of that opportunity. And so if Westbrook's going to be thrown into that, like there is risk here for Russ. It's obviously a better setup for him because there's so many more shooters on this team, even though both of their centers, their like main centers, aren't shooters.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, he does things that they need. Like they don't have anybody on their team that really gets into the paint. The only real issue with that is that he has not finished well.
Right. He has not been a good finisher.
Like that's a problem. Defensively, he's still a big negative. And now the Clippers don't really need Russ, is like what it all comes down to. Like Russ,
I know, that's why I hear people saying that this is a risk for the Clippers, and I don't know. It doesn't feel that way to me.
It just depends on how it goes. Like, it just depends on like what the expectations are. Like, I think it's easier to set like clear expectations with vet minimum Russell Westbrook than it is with max contract Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
And you have to give him credit because he went to the Lakers and he came off the bench, but he's going to have to more. I think Russ still has a lot of juice left, but can he play in the right way? I have my doubts about that. I have my doubts about this being impactful at all, and because like I think that he might be just like a second and third quarter kind of guy, and then like they finish with basically like Paul George as the point guard, and I think that that's where it could actually. This is where it helps them, is that like PG is basically their only real playmaker on the team. Like he's their primary ball handler, and if you can just like give PG some relief throughout the game, and then you finish with Russ on the bench and with like that typical starting unit, like I think it could work. I think that there are things about it that could work. Do I believe in this Clippers team? No, I don't. But good for Russ to land in LA again, to play with PG again. It's great. Like I think that it's a good situation for him, but I just don't know if he can handle that role. But again, like this is vet minimum Russ. We've never seen that before. And so like maybe that changes things for him, because I'm sure it is like humbling for some of these guys at the end of their careers to like have to take the buyout, have to sign on a vet minimum with a team that wants them. And like how many calls were they getting on Russ, about like, oh my gosh, we really want Russ to come here. I don't know. I mean, like Bulls, Wizards, Clippers. Like, is there anybody else?
Heat were thrown out there as well.
The Heat.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it plays out. I think it's a good setup for him, but I think there's a lot of risk involved for him to actually perform. Because if this goes south, like if this doesn't work out, then I think this summer for him could get ugly.
Yeah, I think he might have been better off just like going back to the Wiz and just being their point guard and just like doing his thing. And maybe they make the playoffs, maybe they don't. Like there's no pressure.
But similar to you walking up to Allen Iverson, like sometimes you just got to take the shot, Andrew, even if you think it might not work out.
Hey,
because let's be honest, this might be like his last chance to get a ring. I mean, this team has been playing well lately. They're getting up into top 4 of the conference. So like they maybe by playoff time they are thought of as a legitimate contender that everyone is worried about, and that would you have to take those opportunities if you're Russ.
Yeah, I have lots of doubts about all of it when it comes to this Clippers squad, but they're talented. That I've seen another team like this before with Paul George and Russell Westbrook that had like all the names on the back of the jerseys,
Yeah,
and that was a long time ago.
I was actually thinking about that team because the MVP conversation's going on and it's getting very toxic, and I was thinking about how Jokic in the straw poll that they did is like so far ahead of the pack again.
Yeah,
and I was thinking about, would that have been the case if Russ had come back after his MVP season, done a triple-double again, which he did do, but if the OK3 team had actually worked out and they were like number 1 seed in the West, would he have gotten back-to-back MVPs in that scenario? I don't know the answer to it, just something I was thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, Paul was obviously like the guy on those teams. So third in the MVP voting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he would have ever gotten back-to-back because it took like such a miraculous end of the season. It wasn't just the triple-double. It was like the stuff in Denver and just the way that he played. It was just a miraculous time for him. So I just don't think like that was ever going to be replicable. But it was an amazing year. Okay, before we go, we're still within the All-Star break. Predictions. Are the Thunder making the play-in playoffs or going to the lottery?
I think that they will be going to the lottery.
Yeah, I do too. I would not be surprised by play-in, though, as we've discussed. Like, they've been one of the best teams since the beginning of the new year, and they've shot the ball really well.
It just comes down to, like, these other teams are going to be going all out. Like, the Lakers are going to be playing, 7-man, 8-man rotations if they need to, treating this like the playoffs to get to the end.
Yeah.
I think OKC isn't going to all out tank. I don't think they're going to be resting guys, but I do think we're going to see a lot more developmental minutes come in. They're going to keep playing the rosters the way they have been.
There's going to be minutes against the Kings where it's like Trey Man and Jang are out there and they go like a -12 and you're like, oh my God.
I don't think they're going to be approaching the stretch run the way they approached the Lakers game, for instance. And so because of that difference between the teams, that's why I would favor one of those other teams moving ahead of them.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, if I'm the Thunder, I would probably I'd just rather have a shot at like the 8th pick than this 13th pick and the play-in, just because I feel like the winning is ahead of them for sure. Like they're going to be, I think they could be pretty interesting as a team next year. And even John Hollinger wrote about it, about how he thinks that the Thunder could be making some noise at this time next year. So I would rather have a shot at like Grady Dick or Anthony Black, or I don't know if Jarris Walker will even be in their range by the time we get there, but I'd rather have a shot at one of those guys, when it's all said and done, which will be in that like 8-9 range. So that's where I'm at. But honestly, like you just can't feel bad. Like you have to keep perspective on this. Like you just can't feel bad about any outcome. Like there's not really an outcome that you should look at it as like, oh, this is terrible. Like this is the worst thing. Like there's not really a like worst thing to happen to this Thunder team this season, when it comes to like playoffs, play-in, lottery.
There's a less good option, but it's fine.
What's the best thing? What would be the best thing?
The best?
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like realistic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think realistic would be getting to the 8th pick.
Yeah.
I just don't believe in the Bulls, and they're already 3 games back of the Thunder.
They got Pat Bev.
Yeah, they got Pat Bev. We'll see. The other teams, though, starting with the Lakers going up, those teams are only 2 games back or less of the Thunder, with 3 of those teams only being a half game back: Utah, Washington, and Portland. So, yeah, I think for this team's long-term future, getting to the 8th spot would be the best case scenario.
I tend to agree.
I'm a big Grady Dick fan, Andrew, and if they're at the back of the lottery, I just don't think it's going to happen. And then, on the flip side, realistic best case scenario in terms of the other direction would be making the playoffs probably as the 8th seed, I guess, in terms of realistic.
Yeah.
And then you're playing Denver, and maybe you get a gentleman's sweep. Like maybe that is and you get a few games at Oklahoma City, like in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
That still doesn't feel like super realistic to me, though. Like even as a outcome, more realistic would be like making the play-in. Maybe you win your first game and then you lose your second game.
Yeah.
That feels like more where it could go. So maybe the best case scenario in that way is like you get up to the 9th spot, you get a home game as your playing game, you win that, and then you play the loser of the 7-8 on the road, and maybe that's where it all ends. That would be fun to have like a home playing game.
Yeah, so, it'd be really fun. The amount of like angst and pressure that would be in that building hasn't been in there since Westbrook.
Yeah.
This team.
I just think the ceiling is so capped that I don't want to get too excited about that route. Whereas the 8th pick in this draft would get me pretty excited.
Yeah, same here. Like after this season and knowing that Chet's coming back, and if you can add somebody like Grady Dick, which we can talk about all of the problematic things that would occur if the Thunder did select him.
It would be tough. It'd be tough.
But on the court, like, is there a better fit than like this 6'7" just lights out shooter?
Lights out shooter, but also like really good off ball player.
Yeah,
like he fits a lot of what the Thunder do, and his dude, his stroke is legit.
I know. He can really shoot the ball.
It's so smooth.
Yeah, it would be incredible because he's somebody that the defense has to pay attention to.
Yeah,
And like that's all. That's honestly what you need, like, to add to this group is like, okay, now we need somebody that the defense cares about, and like the Thunder have made defenses care about Isaiah Joe, which is great. And if they had another guy like that, but he's several inches taller than Isaiah Joe, it's like, okay, this would be a big deal for the Thunder, man.
It would be. And I also think it's a big deal that Nick Smith Jr. is starting to come on.
Oh, yeah, he's playing really well.
Because that's a guy who could potentially go ahead of whoever the Thunder wants and would push someone down a spot.
Yeah, and the Brandon Miller stuff is a little problematic too.
I know, and of course we have no idea. I mean, that could end up with him just like not getting drafted depending on how this plays out. Or it just being like this kind of weird, murky situation even up until draft time. So who knows?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thanks so much for listening to our show. Hope you guys are having a great week, and we will talk to you guys again on Friday.